Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account and it says, I 19 female drove 2 hours to surprise my boyfriend, 19 male, and found out he left for the week. Every alarm bell is going off. An instinct is telling me he's up to something bad, but his story is backed up by all of his friends. What should I do here? So this event is going on as we speak, and I need help so I don't do something really dumb and freak out. So it's me and my boyfriend's first year away at school. We're both from Flagstaff, but I went to school at the U of A. He went to ASU, about 2 hours apart, and so far we've both made the drive many times and it's worked out great. My class was cancelled tomorrow, so I decided it'd be fun to go to Victoria's Secret, get some candles and massage lotion and surprise him tonight. I go to his dorm and saw that his car was in the parking lot and figured I had some time to get it cleared with his roommate and surprise my boyfriend. I texted his roommate and asked if I could let myself in, and she said of course, but my boyfriend had gone to San Diego for the rest of the week. I was like, what? His parents have a house in Imperial Beach, but he always wants me to go with him. I called him and he said yes, said he was still going to Imperial Beach, but he was still in Tempe, getting some stuff together. I asked him if I could come with him. He said no, it was just a boys' trip. I told him that I was actually in his dorm parking lot and wanted to surprise him. He gave me this very condescending, "Oh, that's nice." I asked could he at least please come by and see me, or could we meet up since I went through a lot of work to put this together. He just dismissively said, "No, I can't. We're already on the I-10. He then said that maybe he could come to Tucson next weekend. I'm glad I looked that up here. I was going to say Tucson, but I should either just drive on to Flag or go back to Tucson, and basically hung up. I looked at him on Find My Friends and it turns out he was literally passing by his dorm as we were talking and not on the highway. He could have easily stopped by and said hello, and this really hurt. Maybe it was stupid, but I called his friends and they said yes, he was on his way to Imperial Beach. The thing that's so sus is that none of them are going, and it's some random friend he's going with that none of them have ever met, but that I shouldn't be suspicious. It's like all of them were coached into saying the right thing in short notice because they all said the same thing. I mean, I guess I could look at it like they all said the same thing because it's the truth, right? But every one of my alarm bells is going off. This is so unlike him. Even if he were going to Imperial Beach, he would tell me first. This is the first time he's ever gone without telling me or without inviting me. Maybe I'm being the young, dumb, paranoid girlfriend, but my instincts are telling me something is up. I'm so lost and hurt. What should I do here? Edit. I took some of my friend's Xanax to help me sleep, and this totally blew up overnight. Since people are still posting, I guess I should update. He never answered any of my calls. I think I called him 3 times. He did text me goodnight and told me he loved me and he wants to spend the day surfing, but Imperial Beach is shut down for wastewater, so he's going to be in the car and may not be able to talk. I guess maybe those are good signs and I'm being paranoid. I don't know, my gut is telling me something is so messed up. I'm going to sit around and cry and try not to let my head explode by watching TikToks. Now the fact that you was checking Find My Friends and you saw he was literally driving past his dorm, well, he was telling her he was already on the highway. You know, that's no misunderstanding, that's just a blatant lie. And I don't think OP's being paranoid at all because, you know, the story is not matching up. They're acting strangely and it makes it sound like the friends are even reading from some kind of script they've been told as well. Definitely a trust your gut type of situation, I think, but Commodore says, yeah, he's probably messing around. If he was driving past you as you was talking and didn't stop, it's because he didn't want you to see who was in the car with him. His dismissive tone was for the person he was riding with. Ooh, reassuring them that you're nothing special to him. I mean, I can only go by what you wrote in the event. You're a halfway intelligent human being. You know when someone is being fake with you. If it sounded coached, it probably was. You're not overreacting. Trust your gut, girl. Everything you said out sounds super sus, and I'd be ready to pull the plug over this bullshit if I were in your shoes. Opie says yes, everything you say makes sense. I feel like I want to barf. Commoner says, I keep saying this. You don't need to catch him deep inside someone to know he's cheating. The evidence is there. He He lied about where he was, his friends were sketch, and he ditched you when he could have stopped by to say hi. Also, his general behavior was sketch. You don't owe him a reason, just dump him. OP replies saying, I wish it were that easy. I do love him and can't imagine him not being in my life. I'm not without pride though, and it sucks having driven 4 hours and put a lot of effort into surprising him, and now he won't answer his phone. Commenter says, I mean, sure, it was shitty of him to not at least say hi, but he didn't know you were coming, so it's not unusual that he would have plans. Do you really believe your boyfriend is the kind of person to tell all his friends to lie on his behalf to go where? To cheat on you? What exactly are you worried about? If you can't trust your partner, I'll start questioning whether you should continue dating them. Opie says, we sort of did have tentative plans to go hiking this weekend, but he said he was going to call me when he got to Imperial Beach. I guess that everyone having the exact story. A friend I've never met, and that he was actually close by, and not willing to say hello makes me feel so sus. Commenter says, girl, block his number and never contact him again. And Opie replies saying, I wish it were that easy. Our older sisters are like inseparable best friends. Our little brothers are on a mountain bike team together. My parents are good friends with his. This is one of those relationships where we will always know each other. As an aside, I did call his older sister, and she didn't know he was going to their Imperial Beach house either, and says he should have asked their parents first. Even shadier. So OP does update the post and says, so I basically have been sitting around clicking refresh until this post, and shared the link. Was exactly 48 hours old, because after everything I found out, I feel like I'm going to burst. I cried more than I ever thought I could have. I've spent hours on the phone with my mum, my sister, his sister, my friends, and on and nothing helps. Maybe writing this will. Well, for sure, he had another girl with him. He was caught red-handed by our sisters, who have been best friends for their entire lives. They decided they needed a trip to the beach house just as much as he did, so they drove out yesterday morning. They popped in and sure enough, it was he and another girl in the house. They were sleeping in separate beds and he told them, and me now a million times, that they were just friends who liked to surf together. I truly don't know if he slept with this girl. He says he would never, but I do know that he lied to me when he's never been like this before. He said he didn't tell me he was going with the girl because he knew I would freak out. I guess the thing is, he's right. I would have become jealous. I would have yelled. I would have gotten upset and acted like a brat, and he would have given in to me. I don't deserve to be lied to, and he doesn't deserve for me to act like that anymore. So I broke up with him for both our sake. We've known each other forever. His family is like my family. We've been together since we were 14. I love him with everything that I am, but this episode proves we have sunk into an unhealthy dynamic. He feels he needs to lie to me, and that's horrible. My gut tells me he did sleep with that girl, and though he promises he's not going to date her now, but I guess that's not my business anymore. We'll never be out of each other's lives, so I'll know everything he does. I feel like I want to barf at the thought of him being with another girl, and sick that I'll hear about. I'm hurting like I never thought was possible, but I know this is the right decision. Maybe if we both mature, we can try again after college, but right now it's just time for me to cry for a while, then move on as best as I can. Lots of people wanted an update, so here it is. And then there were some final comments to OP. First one said, surely your sister told that girl your boyfriend had a girlfriend after spotting her, right? I mean, I would hope so. OP says, they said they just sat there silent, not sure what to say. They didn't want to involve her, so they were polite to her, but didn't really talk to her. Commenter replies saying, dang, she should know that he's a douchebag too. OP says, I'm wondering what she did while we were having the breakup talk. I feel bad for her. He was in tears, so it had to be very awkward. Commenter says, if she's his surfing buddy, and you both live/go to school in AZ, she's been on this trip before. No one in AZ has surfing buddies. It's a landlocked state, and I haven't met very many people here that know how to surf. Opie says we both grew up surfing and going to the beach at his family's house in Imperial Beach. A commenter, who was downvoted, says, commented on your first post and I'll ask it again. Do you think your boyfriend is stupid? I mean that as a serious question. After your boyfriend went to the beach house with his new friend, which is after the two of you have had your blow up, after he told you where he was going, after all his friends told you where he was going, knowing you could just show up there, like you did in your first post, knowing his family could just show up there, like they did, Is he stupid enough to cheat with this girl at the exact spot he told you and everyone else he was going to be at? I mean, come on. Is he that dumb? Or is he not that dumb to tell you where and when he was going to be cheating? They were in separate beds and he wasn't cheating. It's still inappropriate, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's cheating unless he's a complete idiot. So I'm just trying to get you to not torture yourself with that thought. I think you made the right decision though. Hope he replies one more time saying I think you actually have some good points, and I hope for the sake of what we had together and the fact that we will always know each other. Our mums have been best friends since our older sister's first day of preschool, and they are 24 now. That he didn't cheat. But it's not even really if he did or didn't. He lied to me and I wouldn't have reacted well even if he told me what his plans were. Our relationship wasn't mature and healthy. It hurts so much, but I feel like this is the best thing for both of us. I mean, even in the chance that he didn't cheat, he's still lying to her multiple times, and it's really difficult to build that trust back up, or sometimes impossible to build that trust back up when you're doing something like that. But many of the comments were also putting it down to, them being young and naive or whatever it is. And, I don't know if this is fair, but I don't see it that way. When I was that age, I would never do that to someone. I would never treat them like shit like that. And I find that a bit wild. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from former ad8217 who says, am I the arsehole here for calling my girlfriend weird over her John F. Kennedy obsession? Throwaway account because my girlfriend surfs Reddit often. So my girlfriend, 19 female, is a high functioning autistic and tends to obsess over things more than the average person. Ever since I met her, she's always been a huge history buff and is now getting a bachelor's in American history and an associate's in political science. She's very politically driven and fixates a lot on political history. Ever since high school, she's had a deep fascination with the Kennedy family, but more specifically John F. Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. She can name their birthdays and death dates and times off the top of her head. She can name all of the children Bobby had. She knows every single executive order President Kennedy has made in years in office. It's not just John and Bobby, but the rest of the Kennedy siblings as well. I was never judgy about it, but I've always thought it was a little strange. We recently moved in together, and I now realize how intense this obsession is. I knew she had some memorabilia like old newspapers and campaign pins, but I had no idea that it was more extreme than that. She has posters, statues, books, article clippings, and an eater bag. Yeah, my girlfriend has a JFK eater bag. She has almost every copy of George magazine, JFK Jr.'s magazine. She recently bought like $100 worth of Jack Scholzberg's campaign merch and will vote for him when midterms come around. She has Jackie White's house tour on VHS, the whole thing. She collects anything and everything Kennedy related and will talk my ear off about them for hours. It started to become very off-putting for me, seeing her obsess over real people who are now dead. Last night we were eating dinner when the topic of Caroline Bessette come up. Pronunciation, I do apologize, as she was talking about Caroline's relationship with JFK Jr. I explained to her that she was really weird and it was strange that she just knew everything about these people. I said that it's okay to have special interests, but it gets to a point. She didn't take it very well and left to go stay at her best friend's house for the night. I think she's overreacting, but I do feel a little bad. So, am I the arsehole? Reddit, my girlfriend has always had a past with severe bullying, especially on her interests. I'd never poke fun at them, so she knows that my response was not bullying. Oh my word, how can you not realize you're being an arsehole in this situation? He said at the very end, he knows she has a history of being bullied over this, although, he's saying that she won't see it that way. I didn't believe that for a second. He also knows she's autistic and then chooses to call her weird for one of her biggest passions. She's not going to be comfortable talking to you about it again because she knows exactly how you see it. And to me, I think it's great that she actually has something that she loves so much. As long as it's not like harming or taking over their life, I mean, what's the problem? Sure, JFK obsession might be a bit different than some, but I think everyone has their thing. I like seeing World War II documentaries. I will watch them every single night. I know people who are absolute Star Wars obsessed, right? You can ask them like the bloody most random questions, like what's the temperature on Tatooine or something like that. And they'll be able to tell you. That's just totally random. And I get, this might not be for everyone, but he said two things in this: ever since I met her and ever since high school, and he still decided to move in with her. But a commenter says, I'm not the biggest history nerd, but I think knowing that much about history and politics is fucking awesome, and tells me that she's a smart person. I'm assuming she's not dry humping a body pillow of JFK every night, so I don't know what your issue is. You knew she liked these things before you all got together, and now you're complaining when it's in your face. You're the arsehole. Absolutely. Opie says, I knew, but not the extent, and based off how big she loves JFK, she might as well own a body pillow. I don't appreciate how much she obsesses over him and the family. Commenter says, Jesus Christ, get the fuck off my screen, dude. Another one says, of course you're the arsehole. How would you not be? Have you never met a person with deep knowledge about something and collect stuff about it? No friend who is obsessed with football. Opie says, I do, but football is different. Commenter replies, how is it different? Opie says, it's more normal. A lot of people like football, and yes, sometimes people can take it to the extreme, but I find that football is more reasonable than the Kennedys. Commenter says, yes, you're the arsehole. Just because you might not be into it doesn't mean it's weird. Also, as you mentioned, she's autistic. Spoiler alert, it's most likely her special interest, which means yes, she's going to talk about it repeatedly and be knowledgeable about the topic. Have you told her how you feel, since it's obviously such an issue to you? Or did you just run to Reddit to try and shame her for her interests, just because they don't align with yours? Opie replies saying, I never thought it was an issue before, so I never felt the need to talk to her about it. I came here because I just thought it was weird that she likes things so much, and I wanted to know if I was the only one who saw it that way. So Opie comes back in 2 months later and says, so it's been a few months since my last post. First off, yes, I saw that everyone called me an arsehole. I still think some of you were overreacting, but whatever. My girlfriend stayed at her friend's place for 3 days. She barely responded to my texts except to say she needed space. When she finally came back, she didn't yell or anything, which honestly made it more uncomfortable. She just sat me down and tried to explain again that her interest in history, and specifically the Kennedys, is something that brings her comfort and structure, especially because of her autism and past bullying. She said me calling her weird hit a nerve. I told her I understood, but I also said I still think the level she takes it to is excessive and borderline unhealthy. I thought I was being reasonable by not backing down completely. She told me that if I really thought it was that weird, then I probably had no idea how much of her collection I'd actually been interacting with on a daily basis. I asked what that meant, and she kind of looked at me and said, you really don't notice anything, do you? Apparently, and I swear, I'm not making this up, a lot of stuff in our apartment that I thought was just normal decor is actually Kennedy related. The framed black and white city photo in the hallway is from the days of JFK's inauguration. The dishes we use are replicas from a White House set. The throw blanket on the couch has some kind of subtle pattern tied to Jackie Kennedy's fashion line or something that I don't fucking know. Even the stupid coasters have little embossed dates on them that correspond to important moments like his assassination, JFK and Jackie's marriage, Bobby's assassination, and so on. I told her that proves my point, that it's too much if she's literally building her entire environment around this family. She got really quiet again and said that she didn't think it was a problem because it makes her feel happy and safe. While she was out again the next day, I decided to help. Oh, don't do it, don't do it. I packed up a bunch of what I thought were the things like the eater bag, some of the statues, and a stack of magazines, and I took them to a storage unit my cousin has. My thinking was that if it wasn't constantly in her face, she might tone it down a bit and we could have a more normal living space. I didn't tell her beforehand because I knew she would say no, and she'd probably blow up in my face. She came home, immediately noticed that things were missing, and completely lost it. I've never seen her like that. Not yelling, but like full shutdown panic. She started going through every room, opening drawers, checking closets, asking me where everything was. I told her I'd just moved some stuff out for now, and she started crying and said I had no right. Her best friend showed up with her mum. Apparently my girlfriend had called them in a panic, thinking someone had broken in and stolen her things. Her mom was furious at me and basically said I crossed a major boundary, and that this wasn't about clutter. It was about me trying to control something that's important to her. I tried to explain that I was just trying to make things healthier, but nobody was on my side. Her mum literally told me to give everything back immediately, or they would come with her to get the rest of her stuff and she'd be moving out. She's currently staying with her mum again. I had to go back to the storage unit and bring everything back, and she came by with her friend to collect not just the items I moved, but also a bunch of her other stuff that I didn't even touch. Before she left, she told me that what I did felt worse than bullying she had dealt with before, because at least those people weren't pretending to care about her. I honestly think that this is a huge exaggeration. I didn't destroy anything, I didn't throw anything away, I just relocated it temporarily. But now her entire family thinks I'm some controlling arsehole, and she's talking about not coming back at all. So yeah, that's the update. I still feel like I had a point about the obsession being too much, but now I'm apparently the villain for trying to do something about it. So Reddit, am I still the arsehole? But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Papaberto2, who says, "Am I the asshole for requesting a public apology? I run warehouses, but my office is in the main office. The rest of the office is an open floor plan with cubicles surrounded by offices that all look into the bullpen area. My office is one of those. One day last week, someone in the office on the logistics team, which I don't manage, got real mad because someone on my team mistakenly marked some orders incorrectly. They didn't mark them as shipped when they hadn't shipped yet. Nothing disastrous like that. More like they marked them as ready to pick instead of scheduled for shipment. Frustrating for sure. When the logistics guy, let's call him Mike, discovered this, he lost his mind. Jumped up so quick, he knocked his chair over and ran into my office, screaming the whole time. Lots of cursing and name calling. He ended up storming out of my office, through the bullpen and out the door. My boss is also Mike's boss and she's a VP. I'm a senior manager, but he's only a manager. I don't manage him. Within seconds of this going down, she was in my office asking what happened. I gave her the rundown and she said he'd apologize by day end. It ended up taking 2 days for him to apologize. When he did, so he came into my office and shut the door, then just said a generic and not at all sincere apology. It took maybe 5 seconds from the time he shut the door to when he opened it and walked out. When the VP later asked if Mike apologized, I said he did, and it wasn't sincere at all. I also said since he was comfortable with having a hissy fit for the office to hear, then I felt an apology with the door open would be appropriate. She said she didn't disagree, but felt asking for another apology might be breaking his balls a little. I disagreed and explained that there's a big difference between breaking balls and cursing someone out, and that in this situation, he deserves to be embarrassed a little. I've talked to a few other people and their opinions range from agreeing with me to telling me that even though I'm right and Mike is obnoxious, forcing him to make an apology where it can be overheard is just going to make things worse. But I think I need to stick to my guns here. The VP said she'd think about it, but might need to involve HR. Half Squirrel says not the arsehole. If Mike is going to discipline in public, he needs to apologize in public. I'm a manager. I always discipline in private and praise in public. It has served me well. Opie says, I generally do the same. Another commenter says, you're the arsehole. He apologized, you let him off, end it, don't be petty. Opie says, I didn't let him off it so much as I didn't even have time to respond before he opened the door and left. Another commenter says, not the arsehole, but I think instead of a public apology, perhaps a public acknowledgement that that sort of behavior was unacceptable and won't be tolerated in the future by your boss. Nobody deserves being yelled at publicly and everyone should know it. I also think an apology wasn't enough. He should have got an official warning. And I can see where OP is coming from and other people in the comments were coming from. Because, you know, the original was an outburst in public, so I can get why OP would want it to be public. But let's face it, it's not going to happen. No company is going to turn around and make someone give a public apology like that. And of course, Reddit's going to push this because, you know, everyone loves a bit of karma, right? But like the last commenter said, I would probably be pushing for some kind of warning rather than, you know, a public apology. And let's face it, if he was, and this is a big if, he was forced to give like a public apology when the private one was already like insincere and meaningless, the public one's just going to be meaningless in front of a bunch of people. But OP does update the post and says, I ended up telling my boss not to worry about another apology from a co-worker who had a hissy fit in my office. That was Thursday. On Friday, I was in a meeting with a VP and about 20 other people when Mike started instant messaging me rapidly. he was angry again about something. In the span of a minute, he went from asking questions to all caps yelling messages and cursing again. I was sitting next to the VP, so I showed her the messages and said I was done talking to him if that was how he was going to be. I chatted him back and said after the meeting, which he was in just online from home, he could call me and the VP and would hash everything out. The genius decided to unmute himself and start yelling and cursing in the meeting, totally unhinged behavior to the point where they booted him out. He continues screaming at the VP after the meeting was over on the phone. Instant final warning. She wrote it during the meeting and told him on the phone it'd be delivered on Tuesday when everyone was back in the office. Moving forward, I'll only be communicating with him via email or chat, despite being in the office together. If it's necessary to meet in person, I'll have a third person in the room with us. Dude is going to get himself fired and I need to make sure I'm not collateral damage. Commoner says, how does he still have a job? Jesus! Opie says, credit where credit is due. He's very, very good at the nuts and bolts of his job. Lemon Icing says, is this new behavior? Undiagnosed issues? Does your company have EAP? Opie says HR will definitely be involved as that's the policy for any warning above verbal. A downvoted commenter says, how can you be collateral damage when you put your notice in anyway? Opie says, because I've accepted a counter offer, so I'm not leaving. So Opie added another post which was basically about that last comment. It was titled, I took an unexpected job offer and it turned into a counter offer. I like the company I work for. I don't love it. I've learned a lot here, but I'd leave for the right role somewhere else. Also, they have a gym on site, which is a big plus. I was soft looking but nothing serious because the company was just bought out by one of the biggest companies in the world. I'm due to receive at least 3 payouts in the next 2 years. 1 retention bonus this year, 1 in 2 years, and an equity payout next year. All 3 stand to be substantial, with the 1 in 2 years equal to a year's salary. It wouldn't make sense for me to leave. A couple of weeks ago, I was on PTO when my phone rang with a local number. It was a company in my area that I'd heard of, and they'd asked if I'd come in for an interview the following day because they were desperate to fill a role you'd be perfect for. I said I was in PTO and would be in the following week. They offered to do the interview later that day, online with the whole team. Definitely got my attention. So I did it, and they offered me the job in the interview, and I received the offer later the next morning. I went back to my job 4 days later and gave my notice to my boss. She said, oh God, please no, please be joking. She went and told the CEO, former owner before the sale, and he came into my office and said he wouldn't accept it. He said, don't BS me, show me the offer letter and I'll beat it by $5,000 today. So I did, and he did. By the end of the day, I had a 35% increase and a promotion to senior manager with a signed agreement for a promotion to director within a year. Best PTO I've ever had. And I guess all's well that ends well in the end, but what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly is absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows.